The Kybalion hides the laws that control reality. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Zen proverb. This ancient truth perfectly reflects the hidden power of the Kybalion, a book that reveals the invisible laws silently shaping our lives, thoughts, and reality itself. These principles aren't just mystical ideas. They are tools for transformation. If you've ever felt like there's more to life than what you've been told, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready to see what most people miss. As you watch, ask yourself, how would your life change if you truly understood how reality works beneath the surface? Comment below with your thoughts, and let's explore these sacred truths together. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where ancient knowledge meets your personal awakening. 1. Everything is mind. The world you see isn't what it appears to be. What seems solid, fixed, and external is, at its core, a projection of something far more subtle: your mind. According to Hermetic wisdom, everything is mind. The entire universe is mental. This isn't a metaphor, it's a law. Reality itself begins not in atoms or matter, but in thought. What you feel, what you experience, what shows up in your life, all stem from your inner world, vibrating and unfolding as your personal reality. Your mind is not just a quiet observer sitting in the background. It is the source, the generator, the architect of everything. Every circumstance you face, every emotion you carry, every person you meet is connected to the vibration of your thoughts. You are not just moving through life, you are projecting it outward like a movie from the reel of your subconscious. Change the film, and you change the story. Alter your thoughts, and the entire screen of reality responds. This is the power hidden in plain sight. Most people think they're reacting to life when they're actually responding to the echo of their own beliefs. A chaotic mind manifests a chaotic world. A mind filled with fear attracts more reasons to fear. But a mind that is centered, aware, and aligned with truth begins to see clarity, peace, and synchronicity unfold. The mirror of reality never lies. It only reflects. Trying to fix the world while ignoring the mind is like wiping a mirror, hoping it changes your face. It doesn't work. The outer is simply the consequence of the inner. The Kybalion reminds us, the all is mind, the universe is mental. This is not a theory. It is the blueprint beneath all things. And when you understand it, you realize you are never truly stuck. The key to change isn't outside of you. It's always been within. Energy follows thought. Attention brings manifestation. The clearer and more intentional your inner world becomes, the more harmonious your outer world reflects it. You begin to attract relationships that mirror your growth, opportunities that match your frequency, and peace that doesn't depend on conditions. You stop waiting and start creating consciously, powerfully, and in alignment with the laws that govern the invisible. To master this law is to reclaim the authorship of your life. It doesn't require force, it requires awareness. You don't need to fight the shadows outside. You simply turn on the light within. And when your inner vibration shifts, the universe has no choice but to follow. Because everything is mind, and the mind is where all true power begins. If you're ready to take full responsibility for your reality and harness the true power of your mind, comment below, "I create my reality." And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Your journey to conscious creation starts here. 2. The universe operates by invisible laws. Life isn't random. Everything you experience, your thoughts, emotions, Circumstances unfolds according to 7 hermetic laws: mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. These principles are not abstract theories. They are the invisible architecture of the universe. They operate on every level: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Whether or not you're conscious of them, they shape your reality every second of the day. The law of mentalism reveals that all is mind. Reality begins in thought. Everything you see around you was once an idea. The house you live in, the phone you use, even the life you're living at all started in the realm of mind. What you hold in your inner world, you project onto the outer world. If your thoughts are clouded by fear, lack, or self-doubt, your reality will echo those frequencies. But if you discipline your mind to dwell in clarity, truth, and intention, your life begins to shift in extraordinary ways. The law of correspondence teaches that the patterns in your inner world are mirrored in your outer world. As within, so without. When you're overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected inside, your external life becomes chaotic, disordered, and full of friction. But when you center yourself through reflection, healing, or meditation, you begin to notice your environment responding to that harmony. The way people speak to you changes. Opportunities begin to open. Life becomes less of a struggle and more of a flow. The law of vibration reminds you that everything is energy. Nothing is still. Every object, every emotion, every thought vibrates at a specific frequency. Gratitude, love, joy. These emotions vibrate higher than fear, shame, or guilt. When you live in a low vibrational state, you attract more of the same. Raise your frequency, and you begin to magnetize people, experiences, and outcomes that reflect your elevated state. Polarity is the principle that everything has its opposite: light and darkness, peace and chaos, love and hate. They're not separate, but rather different degrees of the same thing. By understanding this, you stop labeling experiences as good or bad. Instead, you begin to transmute one into the other. You realize that heartbreak contains the seed of transformation, that fear can be turned into fuel. This is how you reclaim your power, not by resisting polarity, but by learning to work with it. The law of rhythm reveals that life moves in cycles. Just like the tides rise and fall, your energy, emotions, and circumstances follow patterns. There will be seasons of growth and seasons of stillness, moments of clarity and moments of confusion. But rhythm teaches you that no phase is permanent. You learn to trust the wave. You learn that downturns are not punishments, but setups for your next rise. Cause and effect states that nothing happens without a cause. Your current reality is the result of previous thoughts, decisions, and actions. There are no coincidences, only consequences. If you want to shift your life, you must shift your input. That means taking responsibility for what you think, say, do, and allow. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What am I creating?" The law of gender says that everything has both masculine and feminine principles. This isn't about gender roles. It's about the creative forces within you. The masculine initiates, directs, and acts. The feminine receives, nurtures, and brings forth. True balance comes when these energies work together. You stop chasing everything, and instead, you learn when to act and when to allow, when to speak, and when to listen. These 7 laws are not ancient relics. They are the keys to a conscious life. When you align with them, you stop living by chance and start living by choice. Your mind becomes the architect. Your emotions become signals, and your reality becomes a reflection of your inner mastery. This is how you break free, not by changing the world outside you, but by transforming the world within you. Are you ready to align with the hidden laws that shape your reality? If so, comment below. I live by universal law, to declare your commitment to conscious transformation. 3. Your inner world creates your outer world. What you think, feel, and believe doesn't stay locked inside you. It becomes the very frequency you radiate. And that frequency acts like a magnet, pulling toward you people, situations, and outcomes that match it. This is not fantasy. This is law. The Hermetic principle of correspondence teaches, as within, so without. Your inner world is not separate from your outer world. It is the blueprint. Every emotion you carry sends out a vibration. Gratitude hums at a high frequency, drawing in peace, abundance, and joy. Fear, resentment, and anxiety operate at a lower frequency, attracting delay, conflict, and limitation. Nothing in your life is random. Everything is vibrating your thoughts, your words, your beliefs, and each vibration becomes a cause that sets unseen forces into motion. This is where the law of cause and effect comes alive. Everything that appears in your life is the fruit of seeds planted sometimes recently, sometimes long ago. That moment you said, "I'll never be good enough," that quiet belief that love always leaves, that repeated inner voice saying money is hard, those thoughts are not just passing clouds, they are commands, and reality, as if obeying a silent script, begins to reflect them back. You may not see the link right away. A thought today might ripple into an event months later, but cause and effect is never broken. The universe is listening more to your energy than your words. So if your mouth says, "I want success," but your energy says, "I'm afraid of failure," you'll attract more delay than triumph. Cycles repeat because energy repeats, and energy repeats because thoughts are recycled. Unconscious fears, left unexamined, become self-fulfilling prophecies. Old beliefs become patterns. Patterns become identity, and identity becomes destiny unless interrupted. The interruption begins with awareness. When you become the observer of your mind instead of its prisoner, you regain choice. You can choose what you dwell on. You can elevate what you feel. You can plant new thoughts, ones that carry frequencies of expansion, courage, and love. And those frequencies will call back experiences aligned with them. You don't need to fix the outer world. You need to tune your inner one. If reality is a mirror, then your life isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. The seeds are in your hands. And the moment you change what you sow, what you reap must follow. Do you believe your inner world shapes your outer reality? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I align my thoughts with truth and power. Let the universe know you're ready to shift from within. 4. You are not your mind. You are the conscious observer. You are not your fears, your doubts, or the endless stream of thoughts racing through your head. You are not the internal monologue that criticizes, judges, compares, and worries. You are the one who sees all of this happening. You are the conscious observer, still awareness behind the noise. The moment you begin to recognize this is the moment you take your first step toward true power. You move from being trapped in unconscious reaction to consciously responding to life. From letting reality happen to you to shaping it from within. This is the foundation of all spiritual mastery, and it's the message buried deep within the Kybalion, a book that whispers the secret laws that control reality to those ready to listen. The Kybalion teaches that the all is mind. This means that everything you experience originates in consciousness. Your mind is not just a receiver of life, it is the projector. The world around you is a mirror reflecting the dominant frequency of your thoughts. Yet most people live in autopilot, believing every anxious thought, every limiting belief, as if it were the truth. They don't realize that their suffering isn't caused by external events, but by how their minds interpret those events. When you stop identifying with your mind and begin observing it, you unlock the power to shift your frequency and rewrite your experience of reality. This is not an abstract idea. It's a practical shift. Think of your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. When a thought arises, "I'm not good enough. This will never work. They don't love me," you don't have to believe it. You can pause, watch, and choose something higher. That space between the thought and your reaction is where transformation begins. It's the moment you go from being programmed to being present. The Hermetic laws hidden in the Kybalion remind us that the universe responds not to what we say, but to the vibration we carry. The law of vibration teaches that everything moves, everything vibrates, and the frequency you hold attracts experiences that match it. If your mind is spinning in fear and lack, that is what your life will reflect. But when you rise above those frequencies, when you observe your thoughts without becoming them, you begin to vibrate from a higher state: clarity, peace, and inner power. Mastery begins when you stop running from your mind and start mastering it. You realize that your thoughts are tools, not truths. They are patterns shaped by memory, culture, and past pain, but they are not you. The Kybalion says, to change your mood or mental state, change your vibration. This is more than just positive thinking. It's vibrational alignment. You start to choose the inner state you want to live from, rather than being dragged around by the chaos of untrained thoughts. The world doesn't need more people on autopilot. It needs awakened observers. People who can rise above the storm of the mind and consciously shape their lives from a place of awareness. You are that person. Not because of anything external, but because the moment you witness your mind instead of merging with it, you become sovereign. And in that sovereignty, everything changes. Stay connected to your true self by subscribing to our channel. Here, we explore the power of conscious awareness and support each other in breaking free from mental patterns. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer, capable of choosing peace, clarity, and purpose. 5. Life moves in rhythmic cycles. Progress isn't a straight road. It moves like a wave, rising and falling, always in motion. The Kybalion teaches us through the law of rhythm that everything in existence follows cycles, up and down, inward and outward, expansion and contraction. Just like tides return to the shore, and just like seasons revolve from spring to winter and back again, your life also flows through predictable, energetic patterns. What you once saw as failure or repetition is actually part of a sacred spiral, a return not to the same place, but to a higher version of it. You don't face old wounds because you've regressed. You face them because now you are stronger. You're prepared to meet them with more wisdom, more maturity, more presence. Everything flows, out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall, the Kybalion reminds us. This isn't just a quote from an old mystical text. It's a mirror reflecting your own journey. When things fall apart, when your energy dips, or your emotions resurface, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means the pendulum has swung, and it will swing back. Understanding this law allows you to stop panicking in the low moments and stop clinging in the high ones. You begin to trust the process, to respect the timing, to know that the low is not a punishment, it's preparation. It's part of the rhythm of expansion. Think of someone who worked hard to overcome anxiety therapy, meditation, personal growth, and finally felt free. Then one day, without warning, the anxiety returns. Most people would see this as failure, but if they understood the law of rhythm, they'd see it as a revisit with purpose. This new wave isn't here to destroy progress. It's here to test it, to deepen it, to strengthen roots that were already planted. The universe doesn't send us backward. It brings us inward. Every return is an invitation to heal at a higher octave. When you realize that rhythm governs your emotions, your relationships, even your opportunities, you stop trying to force linear progress. You begin to align with a deeper intelligence that already knows when to pull and when to release. You learn to move with grace, to rest without guilt, to rise without arrogance. The low points become sacred pauses. The highs become humble gifts. Nothing is wasted. Everything is part of the spiral that lifts you closer to your higher self. You don't grow by avoiding the cycles. You grow by mastering your presence inside them. Let go of the need to constantly climb. Instead, trust the wave. Let the rhythm teach you. Let the spiral carry you. Because once you do, you stop surviving life, you start flowing with it. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a comment of trust. I embrace the rhythm of life. I am growing through every season. Let this be your declaration as you rise, again and again, with greater wisdom each time. 6. Transformation is inner alchemy. You are not meant to destroy fear, sadness, or anger. These emotions are not enemies. They are energy, and energy doesn't die. It transforms. This is the art of inner alchemy, the sacred science of transmutation taught in Hermetic wisdom. When you feel anger, you're not supposed to suppress it or explode with it. Instead, you shift it. That energy, when elevated, becomes courage. Fear, when lifted to a higher frequency, becomes grounded presence. Sadness, when seen through the eyes of truth, becomes insight. This is not fantasy. This is vibration at work. Everything vibrates. Nothing is still. And when you understand this, you no longer need to fight your emotions. You simply change their frequency. Polarity tells us that opposites are the same in nature, only different in degree. Fear and faith are not enemies. They are ends of the same pole. The same is true for sadness and wisdom, for anger and strength, for doubt and clarity. Every negative state has a positive twin waiting to be revealed. You move between them not through force, but through awareness. The Kybalion says, to change your mood or mental state, change your vibration. You're not broken. You're just vibrating at a certain level. And vibration can always be raised. When a storm rises inside you, instead of trying to silence it, feel into it and listen. Ask what this emotion is trying to show you. Emotions are messengers, not problems. They carry encoded wisdom, and when you honor them, they evolve. This is the silent miracle of inner alchemy, turning emotional lead into spiritual gold. You begin to realize that transformation isn't about escaping your darkness. It's about holding your darkness in so much light that it melts into truth. This is why the Hermetic path is not about denial or suppression. It's about mastery. You become the alchemist of your own reality, the one who knows how to turn inner chaos into inner clarity. This is the secret hidden behind the ancient words. The laws that control reality don't exist outside of you. They operate within your thoughts, your choices, your emotional vibrations. So you don't need to wait for a new life. You don't need a miracle to come from outside. The miracle is already inside you, waiting to be activated through alignment with these laws. Once you understand that your inner state creates your outer experience, you stop being a victim of circumstance and become a creator of reality. And that's the power the world never taught you, because almost no one is ready for it. But now, you are. To affirm your commitment to the path of inner alchemy, declare your transformation. Comment below, "I choose to transmute my energy," and let others be inspired by your journey of conscious elevation. 7. Real power comes from alignment, not control. You don't control the universe, you align with it. This is the foundation of all true power. The more you try to force, the more resistance you create. But the moment you let go of control and begin to harmonize with the natural rhythm of life, you enter into a state of alignment. Life is not a random series of events. It is a symbolic, intelligent dance filled with messages, mirrors, and meaning. Every moment carries guidance, and the universe is always speaking to those who have the awareness to listen. Living as an initiate means becoming fluent in this language. You stop reacting blindly, and instead, you start seeing the deeper patterns at play. When you begin aligning with the universal laws, synchronicity becomes normal. Doors open, people show up, ideas arrive with precision. You no longer chase life, it meets you where you are. That's not magic, that's alignment. The Kybalion teaches that, as above, so below, as within, so without. This isn't philosophy, it's mechanics. The outer world is a reflection of your inner state. You cannot create peace externally while hosting chaos internally. True transformation starts with vibrational alignment, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony with truth, clarity, and purpose. The law of rhythm reminds us that everything flows. There are tides, seasons, and cycles in all things. You don't escape the low moments, but you stop fearing them. You realize the dip is part of the rise. The initiate knows that energy moves in waves, and instead of resisting the downswings, they learn to rest, reflect, and prepare for the return of momentum. This is where personal power matures not in domination, but in awareness. Not in forcing, but in trusting. Trying to control reality is like trying to sculpt the ocean with your bare hands. It slips away the harder you press. But when you align with universal laws, you begin to move with grace. Even modern science echoes this truth. Everything is energy. Frequency is reality. And frequency is shaped by your state of being, your emotions, your focus, your presence. That's why the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. That's why control fails and alignment succeeds. You become magnetic, not by pushing, but by resonating. There comes a point when you realize that the universe isn't against you. It's waiting for you to attune to its rhythm. The initiate doesn't demand, they observe. They decode the signs. They respond with intention. They walk in sync with the deeper order. This is where real power lives, not in manipulation, but in knowing. Not in domination, but in attunement. Not in force, but in flow. If you're ready to stop forcing and start flowing, type in the comments, "I align with the universe." Let this be your declaration of inner power and harmony. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the hidden wisdom of the Kybalion, a book that doesn't just inform, but transforms. The laws it reveals aren't just theories. They are forces shaping your everyday reality, whether you recognize them or not. As you reflect on what you've heard, ask yourself, what unseen laws have been guiding your life? And more importantly, how will you begin to align with them consciously? If this awakens something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone ready to see beyond the surface, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more truth that empowers the soul. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss what's coming next, because reality only changes when you do. The most dangerous sign in a person? The eye sees only what the mind is prepared to comprehend. Robertson Davies. Have you ever felt uneasy around someone but couldn't explain why? In today's video on Spiritual Wisdom, we uncover the most dangerous sign in a person, one that's often invisible, yet deeply unsettling to the soul. It's not in what they say, but in what they unconsciously project. These subtle warning signs, if ignored, can lead to emotional harm and spiritual confusion. That's why learning to recognize and protect your energy is not just wise, it's essential. As you watch, reflect on your past interactions and ask yourself, have I ignored this sign before? Comment below with your thoughts, or share a story where your intuition proved right. Let's grow in awareness together. 1. The invisible danger behind the smile. Some people wear a smile that looks sincere, but something about their presence unsettles you. It's not what they say, it's what you feel. That quiet discomfort is not imagination. It's a spiritual warning. Carl Jung revealed that the most dangerous kind of person doesn't raise their voice or show obvious malice. Instead, they manipulate reality through shadow projection. This is when someone denies their own flaws and unconsciously assigns them to others. They aren't attacking you directly. They're attacking the version of you that they've created in their own distorted mind. What makes this so dangerous is its subtlety. It slips past logic and speaks directly to your instincts. The person might seem confident, charismatic, or even generous, but behind their words is an energetic distortion. You may find yourself feeling tense, confused, or defensive without knowing why. That's because their energy is misaligned. In the world of spirituality, energy speaks louder than language. These people unconsciously transmit emotional toxins, not because they're evil, but because they're disconnected from their own inner darkness. This projection can be extremely manipulative. Imagine being accused of things you never did, or having your good intentions questioned repeatedly. Over time, this can destabilize your self-perception. You might begin to question yourself, withdraw, or become overly apologetic. But the truth is, you're not the source of the problem, they are. Yet, because the attack is so indirect, many spiritual people, especially the empathic and compassionate, fail to recognize it in time. These interactions leave you energetically drained. It's not because you're weak, but because you're absorbing vibrations that are not yours. In spiritual terms, this is a type of psychic warfare. Your soul picks up on falsehoods long before your mind does. That heaviness in your chest, the tightening in your stomach, the emotional fog, all of it is your spirit trying to protect you. People who weaponize projection often lack self-awareness. They refuse to do their inner work, so they unconsciously outsource their pain onto others. Their friendliness is performative. Their praise is conditional. And their charm is laced with control. The ancient mystics warned of wolves in sheep's clothing. Jung simply translated that spiritual insight into psychology. But the danger remains the same. When a person's outer behavior does not match their inner frequency, you are standing in the presence of deception. You can't always explain it, but you can always feel it. And when your intuition sounds the alarm, your job is not to argue with it, it's to honor it. The best protection is not confrontation, it's clarity. When you know who you are, you become less vulnerable to the projections of others. Self-awareness disarms manipulation. And when you stay grounded in your spiritual truth, false narratives lose their power. These situations are not just psychological, they're energetic. To navigate them, you need more than intellect. You need discernment. You need boundaries. And most of all, you need the courage to walk away, even when nothing bad has been said out loud. True spiritual growth requires you to see beyond appearances. It asks you to trust the invisible, to listen to what is not being said, and to protect your peace as if it were sacred because it is. Some smiles conceal storms. Some compliments carry poison. And some connections are tests, not blessings. The real danger is not what people do in the open, but what they carry in secret, and how quietly that energy tries to entangle your soul. Have you ever sensed something was off about someone even when they were smiling? If you've experienced that invisible warning sign, share your story in the comments so others can learn from it. If not, comment, "I will trust my instincts," to begin tuning into your deeper awareness. Let's awaken this spiritual sense together. 2. Shadow projection, the most dangerous psychological mechanism. Shadow projection is one of the most dangerous signs in a person because it disguises inner darkness under the illusion of false perception. When someone refuses to face their own flaws, whether it's envy, insecurity, aggression, or pride, they unconsciously assign those traits to someone else. It's not just misunderstanding. It's a spiritual and psychological distortion. The accused is not truly being seen, but rather distorted through the lens of the other person's internal conflict. This projection makes interactions deeply confusing and emotionally painful. You may find yourself accused of things that don't belong to you, as if you're wearing clothes that someone else threw on you, insisting they're yours. The danger becomes even more profound when the one projecting appears kind, composed, or even charismatic. Jung observed that the shadow isn't always projected by obviously toxic people. It often comes from those who wear masks of virtue. That's why Jesus warned in the gospel about those who point out the speck in their brother's eye while ignoring the plank in their own. It's a spiritual warning about blindness and denial, cloaked in moral judgment. When a person weaponizes projection, they don't just distort reality, they try to rewrite yours. And the longer you stay entangled with someone like this, the more likely you are to doubt yourself, apologize for things you never did, or carry shame that doesn't belong to you. This is not a battle of the mind alone. It's a spiritual battle. Shadow projection infects relationships, workplaces, and even spiritual communities. It turns communication into a trap. You speak the truth, they hear insult. You act in kindness, they perceive manipulation. They are not responding to your character. They are fighting a version of you that exists only in their own wounded mind. And the more you try to clarify, the deeper the confusion becomes, because the issue isn't what's happening outwardly, it's what's festering inwardly in them. This mechanism is especially perilous for men who carry weighty roles: leaders, fathers, husbands, decision makers. You must recognize when someone's accusation is actually a confession. When they call you controlling, but they are the ones resisting accountability. When they call you selfish, but they're the ones unable to give without expecting power. These are not just psychological observations. They are spiritual patterns of warfare. The shadow doesn't want healing. It wants blame. And it will feed on your peace if you let it. To guard yourself, you must build discernment. Not every accusation deserves an explanation. Not every relationship deserves restoration. Sometimes, the most spiritual decision is distance. Jesus himself withdrew when hearts were hardened. And you must do the same when someone insists on making you the villain in the drama they created to avoid facing their own reflection. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's not just insight, it's a spiritual principle. Because to grow, you must confront what's within, or you will destroy what's around you. And to survive shadow projection, you must refuse to carry what does not belong to your soul. Are you ready to stop absorbing other people's shadows and reclaim your power? If so, comment below. I see clearly now to affirm your commitment to truth, healing, and spiritual growth. 3. Psychic inflation. The ego disguised as divine virtue. Psychic inflation is one of the most deceptive and dangerous distortions of spiritual growth. It occurs when someone no longer sees themselves as a seeker of truth, but believes they are the truth. This is not mere arrogance. It's a total identification with a divine role that blinds the person to their own human flaws. Unlike obvious pride, psychic inflation wears a mask of humility and speaks in the language of virtue. It appears calm, wise, and convincing. But beneath the surface, it is the ego, swollen with spiritual power, disguised as divine authority. This condition is particularly dangerous because it bypasses the usual signs of ego. There is no loud boasting, no overt manipulation. Instead, there is a subtle yet unwavering certainty. These individuals don't think they know. They don't explore, they declare. And those declarations are not up for discussion, because to question them is to question truth itself. When someone believes they are speaking on behalf of God, they stop listening. They stop reflecting. They stop growing. And yet, to the outside world, they may appear like a spiritual guide, calm, confident, enlightened. In reality, they have become spiritually untouchable, not because of purity, but because of ego dressed in sacred robes. What makes psychic inflation even more destructive is its ability to attract others. People are drawn to certainty, especially in times of confusion or pain. A person with psychic inflation offers clear answers, spiritual clarity, and divine conviction. But this certainty is a trap. It doesn't guide others toward truth. It controls them. It replaces their spiritual curiosity with dependence. Slowly, the person who is searching becomes a follower of someone who claims to have transcended the need for further discovery. True spiritual leaders walk with humility and grace. They create space for questions, doubts, and dialogue. Those inflated by ego shut that space down completely. The truly spiritual path is one of surrender, not domination. It requires the constant dismantling of ego, not the elevation of self. But psychic inflation reverses this. It uses spiritual language to fuel self-importance. It manipulates others into silence under the illusion of divine authority. And worst of all, it can creep into our own journey if we are not vigilant. No one is immune to the seduction of power. Even the most sincere seeker can slowly become inflated if they mistake influence for insight or admiration for anointing. To protect ourselves from this illusion, we must stay radically honest. We must ask, do I allow disagreement? Do I invite correction? Am I speaking as the truth or in search of it? When we stop asking these questions, when we stop examining our intentions, we open the door for the ego to claim the throne of our spiritual identity. And when that happens, we may appear enlightened, but we are far from the light. Comment below, I choose humility over ego, if you're ready to stay grounded on your spiritual path and avoid the trap of false superiority. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more deep insights on spirituality and self-awareness. 4. The mask. Perfection that hides a void. The person who appears too perfect, too polished, too composed is often the one hiding the deepest chaos. This isn't just poetic metaphor, it's spiritual truth. Carl Jung called it the persona, the psychological mask we wear to function in society. But when someone becomes fully identified with that mask, they begin to lose connection with their authentic self. It's no longer just a role they play, it becomes a lie they live. Beneath the surface of flawless presentation is often a suppressed shadow, fear, resentment, shame, or a fractured inner world carefully hidden from view. Spirituality requires us to face the whole self, not just the image we want others to see. True spiritual integrity is born in vulnerability, not in performance. When someone always seems morally correct, emotionally untouchable, or unfailingly calm, it can signal not maturity, but suppression. There is a difference between peace and control. The person obsessed with appearing pure may be the one most terrified of their own darkness. And in hiding that darkness, they lose the spiritual power that comes from wholeness. Neuroscience offers striking confirmation of this ancient wisdom. Mirror neurons in our brain, designed to help us empathize and read others, immediately pick up when something doesn't match. When someone's energy contradicts their words, our body senses it before our mind can explain it. That unshakable discomfort you feel around someone who seems too good to be true is not paranoia. It is your spiritual radar. Your nervous system is warning you of the dissonance. The inner reality doesn't match the outer image. The danger of the overpolished persona is not just internal. It affects those around them. When a person represses their shadow, they often project it onto others. You may find yourself blamed for things you didn't do, accused of thoughts you never had, or made to feel like the broken one while they remain the righteous victim. This is not spiritual maturity. This is manipulation cloaked in perfection. The person who refuses to confront their own flaws will often cast those flaws onto anyone who gets too close. Spirituality is not the avoidance of darkness, but the courage to walk through it. As Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And the most dangerous people are often the ones who believe they've already transcended theirs. When someone denies their shadow, they cannot be trusted to love from a place of truth. Instead of transformation, they perform. Instead of reflection, they deflect. They may speak of love, light, and virtue, but behind it all is an unconscious fear of being seen for who they really are. The mask becomes their protection and their prison, and anyone who tries to peel it back becomes a threat. That's why relationships with such people often feel like walking through a minefield. Any wrong step, and suddenly you're the enemy. It's not that they're evil, it's that they're spiritually disconnected. They've mistaken image for identity. And in doing so, they've sacrificed intimacy for illusion. True spirituality welcomes both the sacred and the messy. It knows that healing doesn't happen in the spotlight, but in the shadows. A spiritually grounded person is not afraid to say, "I was wrong," or "I am still learning." They don't pretend to be above struggle. They live through it with honesty. The real danger lies not in those who admit their flaws, but in those who insist they have none. Because where there is no shadow, there can be no light, only a performance. Leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful content like this. If you're ready to remove the mask and embrace your authentic self, comment below. I choose truth over perfection. 5. Archetypal possession. Becoming something inhuman. Archetypes are not mere ideas. They are ancient, universal forces encoded in the human psyche patterns like the savior, the victim, the warrior. They live within the unconscious, shaping how we interpret the world and ourselves. But when someone becomes possessed by an archetype, they no longer hold that energy consciously. Instead, the archetype takes full control. The man is no longer acting as a warrior or a martyr. He is the warrior. He is the martyr. His behavior becomes rigid, rehearsed, and deeply disconnected from his true spiritual essence. This loss of self-awareness is not a mystical transformation. It is spiritual danger disguised as conviction. At first glance, these people seem magnetic. Their confidence is blinding. They speak with certainty, move with purpose, and radiate an aura of power that can feel almost supernatural. But what appears to be divine clarity is often the mask of possession. That glow is not enlightenment, it is obsession. An obsession rooted in unconscious archetypes leads to spiritual blindness. When someone fully identifies with a single archetypal role, their humanity fades. They lose empathy, flexibility, and the ability to question themselves. What remains is performance, not presence. It's not growth. It's stagnation in a myth they cannot see. The consequences are far from personal. Archetypal possession has fueled some of the most destructive movements in human history. From cult leaders to political extremists, those who believe themselves to be chosen, divinely appointed, beyond doubt, have often dragged entire nations into chaos. This is not spiritual wisdom. It is mythological madness. When a man believes he is the only truth, he becomes deaf to every other voice, including the voice of conscience. He no longer seeks alignment with divine order. He assumes he is divine order, and that assumption is where the spiral begins. Spirituality requires humility. It demands the courage to say, "I might be wrong." True spiritual power is not loud. It listens. It reflects. It transforms in silence. But possession removes that possibility. The possessed man cannot stop. He cannot pause. He is on a mission, one that no longer includes discernment or dialogue. To him, doubt is weakness. Opposition is evil. And anyone who questions his vision becomes a threat, not a brother. This isn't strength. It's spiritual rigidity that masquerades as certainty. The most dangerous sign in a person is not rage or rebellion. It is the silent conviction that they have become something more than human, something untouchable, unquestionable, ordained. That belief turns people into symbols, and symbols into weapons. When a man stops being himself and becomes the vessel of an archetype, he loses the one thing that makes him human: the ability to grow, to change, to be wrong. What remains is a spiritual mask, flawless, glowing, and hollow. And beneath it, the soul waits, unheard. Stay awake. Discern the glow that blinds from the light that heals. True spiritual men do not dominate. They humble themselves. They do not possess wisdom. They serve it. If this message has stirred something deep within you, take a moment and speak it aloud. I release false identities and reclaim my true self. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss insights that protect and empower your spiritual journey. 6. Repetition, compulsion, the inner drama that never ends. Some people unconsciously find themselves reliving the same emotional wounds over and over, as if caught in an endless loop of inner pain disguised as daily experience. These individuals recreate painful situations, not because they want to suffer, but because unresolved traumas buried deep in the unconscious mind silently control their behaviors and choices. Without spiritual awareness, they walk through life not realizing that their past is quietly writing their present. The heartbreaking irony is that they often believe life is unfair, or that fate is against them, when in fact, they are unknowingly reliving emotional scripts written long ago. This internal repetition isn't random. It is what Carl Jung described as negative synchronicity, a pattern where unresolved inner wounds attract external situations that mirror those traumas. When the inner child has been neglected, betrayed, or emotionally harmed, it doesn't simply forget. Instead, it continues to seek closure, resolution, and healing through external events that resemble the original pain. And yet, instead of recognizing the opportunity for spiritual transformation, many fall deeper into the cycle, blaming others or circumstances, not realizing the true battle lies within. The spiritual truth is that what looks like misfortune may actually be the soul's desperate cry for attention, growth, and liberation. In these cycles, people often draw others into their unresolved drama. They replay the same story with different characters, assigning roles to those around them that echo the past, casting new friends, partners, or colleagues as villains, critics, or abandoners. This isn't manipulation in the typical sense. It's a subconscious survival mechanism. But because this dynamic occurs beneath conscious awareness, the person caught in repetition, compulsion feels victimized, asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" The spiritual perspective, however, challenges this question. It invites a deeper reflection. What is this pain trying to teach me? What pattern am I repeating, and why? The moment we begin to see these patterns not as punishment, but as mirrors, we step onto the path of spiritual awakening. Each repeated experience becomes a clue, pointing toward an inner wound that hasn't yet been acknowledged. And here lies the turning point. Recognizing that every emotional trigger is a sacred invitation to heal. True spiritual growth begins when we stop projecting blame outward and turn inward with radical honesty and compassion. Healing is not about erasing the past, it's about integrating it with understanding. To break the loop, we must first become aware of it. This is the essence of spiritual work. It involves slowing down, observing, journaling, meditating, and sometimes confronting difficult truths about ourselves. We must look at the patterns of who we attract, the situations we find ourselves in, and the emotions that keep resurfacing. These aren't coincidences, they are messages. When we dare to face them, we begin to reclaim our power from the unconscious. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Repetition compulsion is not a spiritual curse, it is a sacred signal. It is the soul's way of insisting that you no longer ignore what still hurts. When you accept this message with humility and courage, you begin to transform suffering into wisdom. You move from being a passive character in an old story to becoming the conscious author of your own life. And from that place, everything changes. If this message helped you recognize a pattern you've been trapped in, comment below. I am ready to break the cycle and heal. 7. The way out. Conscious integration of the shadow. True healing doesn't begin when we deny our flaws or pretend to be good. It begins when we turn inward and dare to face the parts of ourselves we're most afraid of the shadow. Carl Jung once said, "I'd rather be whole than good," and that wisdom still echoes loudly in every spiritual path worth walking. Because being good often means being polished on the outside while being at war within. But being whole means embracing our full humanity, our contradictions, our wounds, our darkness, and learning to hold them with presence rather than shame. To own your shadow is to admit that you have impulses, judgments, fears, and hidden desires. You don't make excuses for them, but you also don't exile them from your consciousness. You simply bring light into what was hidden. And in doing so, you stop unconsciously projecting your inner chaos onto the people around you. You become less reactive, more stable, and more spiritually mature. You begin to understand that wholeness isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to yourself completely. In Tibetan Buddhism, practitioners are taught not to run away from suffering or desire, but to investigate them with awareness and compassion. In Western alchemy, the metaphor of turning lead into gold isn't about physical metal. It's about transforming the heavy, dense parts of ourselves into spiritual clarity. The shadow is the lead. Integration is the gold. And this process of conscious transformation is not just a psychological journey. It is a deeply spiritual one. When you do this work, something powerful happens. You become humble. Not performative humility, but the kind that makes you feel at peace with your imperfections. You stop clinging to an identity of being good, and you start allowing yourself to be real. This gives you emotional balance. You no longer explode at small triggers or crumble under criticism. You stop seeing conflict as something to avoid and start seeing it as a mirror, reflecting something inside you that wants to be seen. The irony is The more you own your shadow, the less dangerous you become to others. The most dangerous person is not the one with flaws. It's the one who denies them and lives in unconscious projection. But the person who has faced their inner darkness becomes a safe space, a light in this world, not because they're perfect, but because they've stopped pretending. Their spirituality isn't about escape. It's about full presence. It's about becoming someone who can hold both joy and pain, both love and fear, and still choose to respond with wisdom. This is the work of integration. It's not fast, it's not glamorous, but it is the way out of suffering and the way into spiritual depth. When you walk this path, you're not just healing your own life, you're also breaking cycles that ripple through your relationships, your lineage, and the collective. Because every time you choose awareness over denial, presence over projection, and humility over pride, you are becoming the kind of person this world desperately needs. To affirm your dedication to deep healing and self-honesty, comment below, "I choose wholeness." Your words might inspire someone else to begin their journey of shadow integration. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss more insights on the path of spiritual growth and inner truth. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the hidden depths of human nature. In a world where appearances can deceive, staying spiritually aware is more important than ever. Always trust your intuition, protect your peace, and remain grounded in wisdom. If this message spoke to your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs this truth, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming insights on spiritual growth and protection. Stay alert, stay wise, and stay blessed.